Hello, welcome back. We've got another tower to deal with, and, well, it's a bit of a drive, but thankfully not too bad. One of the notable things about Rycross on the outside is, or overworld if you want to call it that, you face generally the same things that you would on foot. This is the only planet where that happens, and it means that the rewards for fighting that way are actually fairly decent. This tower is fairly similar to the other tower. There's a bit fewer blood sabers and a bit more spellcasters. Unfortunately, there is an encounter in here that I was not able to capture. I just never ran into it, which is another palette swap of that trio boss in Last EX Castle. Which I'm really disappointed that I didn't get to show that off, because that's the main reason that you go for the other tower first. And the reason for that is something I actually forgot about while recording the last video, which is the rings. In particular, they do things other than just increase your defense a little, which is the Palma ring gives electric resistance, which, considering that gets put on Wherein, is an extremely big deal. The Deso ring gives ice resistance, which Rune probably does not need. I should say definitely does not need. I've never seen him take a huge amount of damage from a water attack. The Moto ring gives fire resistance, and the Algo ring, well, you'll see. Anyway, the reason that this is a big deal is because those mages that I was talking about, they like to cast a modified Tandle spell, and all three of them can cast it. It is very difficult to deal with if Wherein is vulnerable to it. Also, if you encounter those guys, I highly recommend using instant death skills because they are durable and they hit very hard. But at this point, your instant death is reliable enough that you can at least deal with most of it before things get really bad. And we got another stair maze, and this one especially caused some problems, because it's a little more complicated than what we usually get in this game. Unfortunately, even though there are fewer blood sabers, we are not completely free of them. It's also worth mentioning that those witches also use Gisar, so if you're doing what I did, you better hope they don't act in between too many of your moves. This seems like fairly odd music for such a dangerous pair of dungeons. Oh, they're just handing out all those Stardews. I can pick up more repair kits if I really need them, but I don't think I can get more Stardews just like that. Death Bear! We encountered those in a vehicle, but on foot they're dealt with pretty much the same way their previous versions are, which is they're slow enough that Eliminate usually works on them. They have the same resistances as well. And remember when games didn't actually tell you, hey, if you encounter this really tough enemy type with seemingly no weaknesses, maybe try instant death on them. And this is coming from someone who looks up guides all the time. The staircase that I was ascending seemed to me like the way forward, since I went up several floors and didn't run into a dead end. I was wrong. I thought, hey, maybe I should go to this other staircase to find out what I missed. Also, I ran into some bad luck with air slashes. It's a thing that happens. I'm actually okay with this kind of dungeon design, even if it's a game that doesn't usually have it, because the other tower was kind of straightforward brute force themed, and this is more of a mental challenge theme, so I think having the dungeon be a little bit of a maze is just fine. And this is where I realized that, oh, both of those staircases led to the same place. Oops. And what we get now is another pair of staircases that I don't really know how to handle. I figure, hey, maybe the one that's a little easier to access is the one that leads to some treasure and a dead end. Now, you've seen this encounter before. So why am I keeping it? Well, I did not actually let Twin Arms do anything previously, and I think it's fair to let it show off what it can do. We got the Haken bolt from one side, and next time we'll see what the other side does. Well, in an encounter or two. From that thing's general durability and power, I get the impression that you are supposed to be able to let it combine the first time Arm Right and Haken Left showed up, but it just didn't work out that way. And this is roughly when I thought to myself, I should check my status when I reach the boss just to make sure I actually have those stat bonuses when I fight it. And then I forgot about it. Turns out I went the wrong way again. Right, so let's slowly back away just like last time. Honestly, it might have been better for me to use Highness again, because this is a lot of walking. But I happened to luck out and not get too many encounters as I retreaded that ground. It was to the point where I'm thinking, does the tower disable encounters when you activate the boss? That'd be interesting. And an interesting thing to abuse as well. The funny thing is, this armor is not going to help me very much versus the boss. But it's still useful in other ways. And now I just have to casually throw away the gear that I paid an awful lot of money for. But so it goes. Yeah, that's pretty substantial. I only get one set of guard mail, as far as I know, and I have 2 characters who can use it. I've decided to double up and have Chaz equip the best stuff he can, and the reason is that if I really need Rika to be more durable, I can equip a high-end shield on her. In fact, I think it's fair to say that the guard shield is the piece of armor dedicated to her. And yeah, this is the less severe new spellcaster enemy of this dungeon. I would not be especially scared of these guys even if there were 3 of them. And I believe that in this game, resistance overwrites inherent weakness instead of the two cancelling each other out, resulting in normal damage, because, as you saw, Ren took almost nothing from that Tandle. Oh no, I'm going the wrong way again. I don't handle mazes very well. So you can imagine what happened when I tried to play Dark Souls blind. Well, I did complete the game, but there were some times that I got lost. You can probably imagine how I felt about the catacombs. And it's about time we got better armor for Rune. He certainly needs it. Casually throwing away Laconia mail. If I was going to tweak certain leveling mechanics, I think I'd like it more for things like skills that are useful only in random encounters, where you gained the first 3 or 4 easily, but they didn't grow to such ridiculous amounts later in the game. Because a few dungeons ago we reached the point where there was no reason not to use them in every random encounter, regardless of whether they were really difficult or not. I will, however, make an exception for Rune and Hound, since his entire character design is based around that. Being the blaster guy. So, last time I kinda made the mistake of not preparing quite enough, and that got Rune KO'd. So let's not do that again. I think there's at least a little bit to fear. Well, as before, Chaz's special damage type is not exceptionally powerful here, so I can't rely on the amazing boss killing power that I usually have. EFS also does not work. Now, remember when I fought Zio, and instead of doing things like Black Wave and his normal attack and Flayleye, he just used his full party attacks the entire time? Well, I have a hypothesis about that, which is every time that he would have used something like Flayleye instead of his corrosion or whatever else, that was all pushed forward to this battle, because from now on that's pretty much all Salos ever does. I don't know if it's incredible luck on my part, or it actually is just programmed to do that most of the time. But I'm pretty sure it has attacks other than Flayleye and Hone. and we just don't get to see it. By the way, as to why I didn't equip a shield on Rika, well, the honest answer is I just forgot, but the truth is, it doesn't matter because that doesn't affect magic attacks anyway. If I remembered to change her gear, I probably would have given her 2 guard claws because the Silver Tusk does nothing special here. I also noticed that switching to Crosscut is a better move than any of Chaz's special energy damage attacks. And it is fairly uncommon for that to be the case. Well, there is one thing that the boss changed, which is, at least instead of hitting Wherein for something like 10 damage, he switched to someone who can actually be affected by Flail-Eye. Which is a little disappointing to me, because I wanted to show off Rika's new fire resistance, but it's not that big a deal. If it wasn't for the whole Thunder Mage thing, I would say that this tower would be the good one to do first, just to get some more experience and better gear for the physical tower. Actually, now that I think about it, getting that better armor would have helped a lot against those rocket punches. I guess you could make a case either way. But it's tougher to me to make my case since I never actually fought those super lightning throwing mages. And I'm gonna need more room. Well, if you've counted the treasure chest, you'll know that we have 5 rings. And right now we have only 4 people, but we still have that 1 extra space. So there's the Algo ring. And the main thing about this is that it increases all of Chaz's stats a bit. And now that we're done with all that gameplay stuff, let's move on to story. Just as soon as I remember what techniques do. And yeah, it would be bad if we forgot to talk, because this is a fairly short time period to get that talk conversation. That being said, I have not been nearly meticulous enough in getting every single one, so I apologize for that. Actually, Protectors, there are 3 more towers you have to walk through. Oh, well, we're actually getting the answer. Near the start of the series, I said that the translation of the game was not the best, but it got its ideas across. That's been true for most things. I'd also like to mention that these names given to the 2 sides of the war are basically the winner's description of things. That being said, the Profound Darkness's behavior has not been very nice. But who knows, the Great Lights might not be any better if we ever came in contact with it. Wasn't a lot of this kind of explained by the bishop already, though? Also, having observed the events of Phantasy Star 2, I don't know if battle is quite the right way to describe what happened. That seems a lot to ask. That seems a huge amount to ask. Considering that the Great Light couldn't finish them off for good. Well, that's very JRPG-ish. Alright. In this scene, I think that the translation problems hurt the story. When I was first playing, a lot of this did not make sense to me, and it wasn't until much later that I got a decent idea of what was going on with Chaz. For example, there's the phrase, "It has nothing to do with me," in the face of things that obviously affect everyone. I've seen that several times in JRPGs, and every time it's been in a game that wasn't translated well. Part of it is, despite doing... Okay, my explanation. Part of it is, despite doing all of the usual JRPG hero stuff, he's still a 16-year-old kid who's barely keeping things together after his mentor and parent figure died, and now he has this absurdly heavy responsibility dumped on him. Another thing is, finding out that he and everyone he's ever met are tools for some dimensional monstrosity to keep another monstrosity from getting out of its cell. And the creator is long gone. There's a good chance that even the basic concept of responsibility isn't anywhere in that cloud of astral whatever it is. So it's reasonable to ask why you should follow the whims of this thing that abandoned everyone aeons ago. Of course, the answer is that even if he doesn't care about the Great Light or Profound Darkness, if he doesn't do anything, all the people in Algo are going to die, and Chaz kind of gets that too. But it's not an easy thing to sort all that out, and I appreciate that the game expresses this. I just really wish that this part of the story had a better translation so that the problem could be conveyed in a much smoother way that would make sense to a native English reader. Well, there is a third tower that was never mentioned by LaRouf, and I'm kind of curious about why. Unfortunately, I mistimed it a little bit. It's almost time to go here, or at least it's almost the time where I can interact with that, but not just yet. So that'll have to wait until next time. Next time, more plot stuff and more tower stuff, but I promise you this tower will be more interesting than the previous ones. See you then!